Hi there. We just got our first box of graded games back from WATA Games, and today we'd like to share with you the results. So we have 12 games to show you today. The first one's an oldie but a goodie. This is Cheetahmen II for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was graded at an 8.5 with no seal rating, so this was an opened game, complete in box, but open. And I know a lot of you who are against video game grading would say that I've ruined this now because we can never play it again, but I would argue that this game is unplayable anyway. Development was never finished on the game itself, and actually, if you look on the back, WATA has put in the details that this game is notorious for being broken and unable to complete with existing bugs. Now, I have a bit of an issue with the way WATA grades these games when they're not sealed, so when they look at them as complete in box, because this game never came with a traditional manual, so like a little booklet. It did come with an information sheet, it just wasn't in booklet format. Looking at how WATA graded this game, they gave the box an 8.0, the cart a 9.4 for an overall grade of 8.5, but no grade for the manual. Instead, they mentioned the orange information card and gave it a grade of 9.4 all on its own. If they had considered the information card a manual and factored in its grade to the overall grade, then we'd get a bump up to 9.0 overall instead of an 8.5. So I will go back to WATA and see if I can persuade them to change their minds. But it is what it is, and I can deal with that. That's no problem. Let's now look at price, and of course we use Nerd Melon for this. There's only been 5 sales of this game in the last 2 years, which really shows how rare a game it is. The closest match we could find is this copy, which sold at eBay auction in March 2021 for $3,350 with 45 bids. This is a complete in-box copy, but ungraded. Notice how this copy doesn't have the orange information card, so if this was graded by WATA, it would be treated the same way as my copy. Also notice how this loose cart sold for $150 more than the complete in-box copy just a few months earlier. And that brings me to this episode's segment of Wag the Finger. Collectors, if you're looking to buy ultra-rare games like this, where there really isn't a lot of sales data, make sure you're checking out Nerd Melon, or you might end up buying the loose cart for more than the complete in-box. Next up, we have a greatest hits copy of Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. This was graded at a 9.0 with a seal rating of A+. And this game came with the original hang tab on it, and I was curious what WATA was going to do with that because it doesn't fit nicely within their cases, and it looks like they just fold it down. So lots and lots of copies of this on Nerd Melon. Really easy to do a quick search and figure out the fair market value for this game. But I gotta say, auctions for this game have gone insane lately. Multiple in the $100,000 plus range. One sold for $360,000 recently. But unfortunately for me, this one won't go for quite so much because it's not the original Black Label version. This is the greatest hits version. So the reason the Black Label goes for so much is because the original Super Nintendo console came bundled with the Super Mario cartridge. So not a lot of people had to go out and buy a boxed version of it because they already had the cartridge when they bought their Super Nintendo. As an example, just look at this absolute wreck of a Black Label that sold for $320. Sure, it's a Black Label, but it's only graded a 3.0. It's a loose cart, no box, no manual. It's got a torn label, torn Goodwill sticker, children's writing in permanent marker, all held together with duct tape. Yet somehow this sold for the same price as a complete in-box, but greatest hits version. With a quick search on Nerd Melon, I was able to find this exact game, the Player's Choice, graded at 9.0 with an A+ seal, sold in April 2021 for $4,800 American. And shoot, I'm going to start sounding a bit preachy here, but again, finger wag, just 2 months later, this 9.4 with an A++ rating sold for the same amount, further demonstrating the importance of research before those big purchases. So I brought out some extra display units so we can take a look at the handheld games that we had graded. 1 Game Boy Color and 2 Game Boy Advance games. We'll start with the Game Boy Color. This is Resident Evil Gaiden. Came graded at a 9.6 with an A+ seal rating. I collect Resident Evil video games, but I never owned a Game Boy Color, so I bought this to complete my Resident Evil collection, but I never had to open it. And I'm glad I didn't open it because there's been some decent auction prices for this recently. I paid $64 for this back in July of 2003. Take a quick look at Nerd Melon. Prices range between $1,600 in January 2022 for the same game. Someone paid $2,600 for one in December 2021. And along with my Resident Evil collection, I have a collection of Castlevania games. This is Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance. This came in at 9.4 with a seal rating of A+. And I absolutely love the cover art on this game, but I'm going to tell you a little story. When I originally bought it, it came with a big ugly sale sticker, $29.99 I think it was. WATA doesn't ding you grades if your games have a sale sticker on the front, but it's ugly, so I took it off. So just what is this game worth? Well, again, there's lots of copies on Nerd Melon, so I took a quick look, found the exact same copy sold in March 2022 for $906 American. And the last handheld game is Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance, which was graded at 9.4 with an A+ seal rating. We sent this game off because we knew it had some value, but nobody here at the Nerd Melon team likes the Fire Emblem series. It just doesn't spark that nostalgic bug as, say, a Resident Evil or Castlevania game does. So if there was any game out of all of the ones that we had returned to us this time, this would probably be the one that we would sell. So what's it worth? Actually, we couldn't find an exact match on Nerd Melon, but we found two copies with 9.4 grade and an A++ seal, and they sold for $1,800 and $2,100. So I would expect that this game would sell for somewhere around $2,000. And next up, we have Final Fantasy X and X2 for the PlayStation 2. These games both came back with the exact same grade, 9.6 and an A seal rating. And in case it wasn't evident before, we chose the games to get graded based partially on their fair market value, but also on that unwritten, intrinsic personal value that we have towards these games. And that's where Final Fantasy X comes in. The Nerd Melon crew just loves these games. The Final Fantasy X does have some pretty decent market value, but the X2 is likely the least expensive out of all the games that we've had graded this time. And on Nerd Melon, we found a copy of Final Fantasy X with the same grade, which sold in November 2021 for $1,560. For X2, we couldn't find the exact same grade, but there were 3 copies graded at 9.6 with an A+ seal rating. They sold from $350 to $510. But considering I found these games at a garage sale in Washington last year, they were part of a lot of 10 games for $10. Well, I think we're doing pretty good. Next up is another example of those unintentional lucky breaks you sometimes get in collecting. This is Silent Hill Shattered Memories for the PlayStation 2. It came in graded at a 9.4 with an A+ seal rating. Unintentional because I had purchased this game on the Wii, played it on the Wii and I loved it, but as a collector I wanted to buy a copy for the PlayStation 2. I was looking at my records. In 2010 I paid $35 for this copy. It then sat in my collection for 12 years until I looked up its current price and it had gone up a little bit. Turns out that this game's a moderate holy grail in PlayStation 2 collecting. Plenty of copies of this on Nerd Melon, but we couldn't find the exact same seal rating. There was a 9.4 with a B+ seal rating that sold last year for $600. And just so you know, anytime we reference an auction on Nerd Melon, the link to that auction will be in the description below. The Nintendo GameCube is the console with the highest number of Zelda games. It had 3 brand new Zelda games and a host of reissues and remasters. We had 2 of the new games graded. This is Wind Waker, which came in at a 9.4 and an A+ seal rating. Excellent game. And of course, Twilight Princess, which came in at a 9.2 with an A seal rating. And when I bought my GameCube years and years ago, it came with this copy of Master Quest, which was graded at a 9.6 with an A seal rating. Wind Waker in this condition sells anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000. Twilight Princess sells between $900 and $1,200. And Master Quest about $600. One of the other variants on the GameCube is the Metroid Prime Wind Waker combo. I didn't get mine graded because it's open, but I did do the next best thing by grading its parent, Metroid Prime. This came in at a 9.4 with an A seal rating. Now we have this beautiful family. Link and Samus had this cute little baby. And the Metroid Prime in this grade goes for about $2,000. And that concludes our WATA Graded Games reveal. I think all in all, for a first batch, it was pretty good. We do have another batch from VGA coming. That's still a couple weeks out, but we'll do a review on that when it's in.